Wow, so that's an incredible aha moment.
Yeah, we have a positive plan to get Canada back on track. The government should be thinking about the economic fundamentals that make Canada a desirable or undesirable place to invest and to innovate.
In short, all the hurts into hopes.
Exactly.
Okay.
The issue is the system actually working? Don't just tell me you like immigration, show me that you care about making the system efficient and effective and deliver results in a timely fashion. I think people are looking for a government that will once again measure itself by the results it achieves.
To all Aaha listeners, can you just break that silence here? Everyone, it's me, your favorite RJ Akhil. ലോകമെമ്പാടുമുള്ള എല്ലാ മലയാളികൾക്കും ഒരു അടിപൊളി ക്രിസ്മസ് ആൻഡ് ന്യൂ ഇയർ വിഷസ് ആണ് ഞാൻ തരുന്നത്. And today we are in Aaha studio and right now with me I have a special guest. It's our honorable MP, Shadow Minister Garnett Genuis. So Mr. Garnett, welcome to Aaha Radio.
Well, thank you very much. Great to be with you. It's my wife's birthday today, so I'm great I have these flowers. I'll tell her I bought them for her.
Wow, so that's an incredible aha moment.
Yeah, thank you.
So as I mentioned, he is Garnett Genuis and he's a member of Parliament and the Shadow Minister of International Development and Human Rights, and also he is a human rights activist. So Garnett, what are you looking forward in comparing to 2022 and 2023?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, the holidays, people getting to spend time with family, but I do think the holidays bring home a lot of the challenges people are experiencing right now. It's a time when people are thinking about gift giving, being able to travel, and yet things are less affordable. Getting together is harder, taxes are going up, and I think there is a fair bit of pessimism out there about the direction of the economy and people's ability to afford the things they need and pass better along to their children. So into that concern, that maybe pessimism about the future of the economy, our Conservative opposition is trying to inject some hope and to tell people that we have a positive plan to get Canada back on track, really to get us back to where we were 7 years ago in terms of expectations about the economy continuing to grow, about prosperity and hope and optimism being the defining features of the future of the country. So in 2023, I'm looking forward to being able to bring that message to a country where a lot of people are hurting, and to say we don't need to be pessimistic because many of the challenges we face are the result of poor political decisions, and we can make changes to who those leaders are and who those decisions and what those decisions are, and we can offer a better future for the country.
In short, all the hurts into hopes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you mentioned 7 years, like 7 years before, it was a era of Stephen Harper, and right now we have Justin Trudeau, and in future we have our fingers crossed. Let's hope for the best. Okay. So since this is a radio channel, let's call this as a segment. So the first segment I have, it's past, present and future. So the past, before 7 years, present, current 7 years, and in future. So what is your thought about this past, present, future?
Well, I'll just go through then. I mean, prior to 2015, I think it's useful for people to look back, think about where we were as a country prior to 2015. We faced challenges during that period as well. There was the global financial crisis, and there were other international issues that came up. The start of Russian aggression in Ukraine actually was in 2014. But in that time, I think there was a lot of hope. There was a lot of optimism about the future of the country. People were doing better. The economy was growing, and there was a sense that we could meet any challenge as a country. Also, our crime rates were much lower, right? There were so lower crime, more prosperity, more hope, higher expectations about the future. And Stephen Harper was a no nonsense, get it done kind of leader, right? He was someone who was focused on doing the job of administering the government and measured his success not by the quality of the photos that he was a part of, but by the results he was able to achieve. And then in 2015, when Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister, it was also the year that I first got elected. I think we had a real shift towards a focus on image by this government. And you notice it even in the language they use. They talk about not so much about what they're going to achieve for the country, but they talk about standing with. Oh, we're going to stand with you. We're going to stand with you. We're going to be seen to be on your side, and that sounds nice. But the question then is, and people are asking this after 7 years. Well, what have the results been? The government says that they're going to fight against hate crimes. Well, hate crimes are actually way up. Violent crime is way up. Gang crime is way up. So we're not seeing the results. We have a government that talks about the middle class and standing with the middle class, and yet people who are in that group of the middle class working hard to join it are wondering if they'll ever be able to afford a home, which is frankly a new problem in this country. We are the second largest country on earth, and yet we have many people saying, will I ever be able to afford to own a home within my community in this country? So the results that have been achieved are clearly subpar. The image wears thin when the results are not being achieved. So looking into the future, I think people are looking for a government that will once again measure itself by the results it achieves, not by how many photo ops it participates in, but by how many people are able to live in homes. Not by the verbal expression of solidarity, but by whether the crime rate is actually going up or actually going down. Conservatives are focused on the results, and I think that's where people want to see us go now, is they want to get back to a time when governments measured themselves by the results they achieved, and not just by the money they spent, right? If you can spend a lot of money and not get the right result. We need a government that is very disciplined to delivering positive results for Canadians, and that is focused on everyday people, their paychecks, their homes, their jobs, their security. This is the direction we need to go as a country, and restoring that optimism, that hope about the future.
Perfect. So, as you mentioned about the hate crimes, violence, and everything, like I moved to Canada in 2016. In 2016, I felt like it was a very safe country. But right now, honestly, I don't feel so, because every day in GTA or in Toronto area or in anywhere in our close by cities or something, even Jane and Vaughan, like Jane and Rutherford in Vaughan, recently we had a massive gunshot. Yeah. Why? Like, what's happening with this one? Why? And as my question is like my question, and recently there was an interview video by our honorable Pierre Poliver. Why people in Canada are so angry?
Yeah, so when it comes to crime, I think let's start by saying that the biggest concern is serious violent crime. It's when people are killed, when people are assaulted, when they're physically threatened. These are the greatest concerns, and we're seeing a rise in violent crime, in gang-related crime, in gun crime. So let's talk about why that's the case, and maybe the different solutions being proposed by the different parties. We have this problem of, frankly, repeat violent offenders. That is, people that are involved in serious violence over and over and over again. So we're not talking about the young person who makes a mistake. We're not talking about the person who is on a credible track to rehabilitation. We're talking about people who are arrested, who are let out on bail, and who commit another violent crime later that afternoon. And there's evidence to suggest that you have this small number of repeat violent offenders that account for an incredibly large proportion of the amount of crime taking place. So it's very clear to me, to us as Conservatives, that we need serious, proportionate sentencing for those that are involved in serious, repeat, violent crime. If somebody is again and again and again involved in violent crime, and they're just being released again and again and again, I think we're doing a great disservice to society. So, a criminal justice system, it should take into consideration all of the relevant principles: rehabilitation, justice, deterrence for crime. All of these elements should be a part of the calculus. But certainly when somebody is just committing the same violent crime again and again and again, what we see with the Liberals is constant efforts to reduce sentences, including reducing sentences for those involved in serious violent crime. Now, the other piece of this is what do we think about firearms that are potentially used in violent crime? Now, the Liberals would have you believe that there's this problem of law-abiding citizens who go out and become licensed firearms owners, and then they use those firearms to commit violence. But actually, the process that exists in Canada already for becoming a firearms owner is extremely difficult and onerous. We're not like the United States where you just go to the corner store and pick up a firearm. In Canada, there's already so many levels you have to go through, those restrictions increase in severity and intensity for handguns, for other kinds of firearms that are potentially more lethal. So what we're saying is, adding additional red tape isn't going to solve the problem when we know that most of the crime involving gun crime, virtually all of it, involves illegal or smuggled guns. The problem we have in terms of use of guns in crime in this country is when people maybe purchase them in the United States and bring them across the border, perhaps when people steal guns here, but a lot of it comes back to the issue of gun smuggling. A few years ago, there was that horrific mass shooting in Nova Scotia, which immediately the government followed by saying they're going to bring in more gun regulation. But what they missed there was that the person involved who committed that crime, he didn't purchase any of those guns in Canada. He had a Nexus card. He lived close to the border with the United States. He was driving back and forth, purchasing guns in the United States, bringing them into Canada. He was actually never a licensed firearms owner in Canada, and yet he had been reported to be in the possession of firearms, and the appropriate action, unfortunately, wasn't taken before it's too late. So we need to understand what the problem is if we're going to find the solution, and we need to be much more serious about addressing the issue of illegal guns and gun smuggling. That includes, of course, proportionate and appropriate sentences for those that are involved in the crime of gun smuggling, and we need to review some of the questions around the ease of access for people that have been involved in this horrific violence. How did a person who went on to commit this horrific mass shooting in Nova Scotia, how did he end up with a Nexus card, the easy ability to go back and forth across the border? So we need to talk about the issue of gun smuggling and illegal guns in this country, and this focus on adding additional red tape for firearms owners that have already gone through this very onerous process, people that are not committing these crimes. This is totally the wrong approach. So conservatives are saying we need to tackle serious violent crime by having serious and proportionate sentencing, especially for repeat violent offenders, and we need to address gun smuggling and illegal guns as being the source of gun crime. There's many other things we could talk about. I mean, there's I think there are some instances of crime coming out of desperation, and how do we address the circumstances that are leading so many people to feel desperate in the current environment. I think we need to take a responsible and compassionate approach to the opioid crisis that is devastating a lot of people in a lot of communities, and a conservative government would put the emphasis on treatment and recovery, not on just leaving people where they are, but on supporting people to get into recovery, and providing the appropriate funding for recovery-oriented programs. So there's a lot of things we need to do, but the real focus in terms of addressing crime is serious proportionate sentencing for repeat violent offenders.
So, Mr. Garnett, talking about two major industry or sectors, let's consider airline industry and telecom industry. Do you think people in Canada are paying more? For example, telecom industry, we don't have much options. We have three major companies, and the internet rates what we are paying comparing to all the Commonwealth countries, we are paying more and we are not getting more. And the same airline industries. If a person wants to celebrate in this Christmas, New Year celebrations, by profession I'm into travel and tourism industry. So I can say they are paying a lot for using airports, and the airfares are getting higher. Like, what do you think? What can we do to reduce this cost?
I think that's a very important question as well. Yes, we're a big country, but we pay a lot of money in cell phone bills and other related costs, and airline tickets are quite expensive relative to many other parts of the world. I think there are limited tools the government can use in these kinds of situations, but the best thing we can hope for is the expansion of competition and choice for consumers. If there's more competition, if there's more choice for individual consumers, then there's an incentive for companies to look for ways to do better, to offer better services at a lower price. There's innovation that leads to technological improvements and drives a drop in price. The general principle is the government should be thinking about the economic fundamentals that make Canada a desirable or undesirable place to invest and to innovate. I think part of the challenge we've seen over the last 7 years is not that focus on competitiveness for our economy. That is, Canada being a place that is desirable to invest relative to other countries. Canada's a great place to live, and obviously we have certain advantages in terms of stability and other factors, but the increase of regulation, increasing taxes that are compounding under this Liberal government are making life less affordable, and I think that has an impact on the bottom line for Canadians, what they pay, but also on our competitiveness as a destination for investment. I'll say just one other point on airlines, that part of the cost of travel by air, by land, is typically the carbon tax, and the carbon tax is set to increase automatically next year. The Liberals have been clear about their intention to actually triple the carbon tax over time. So with life already less affordable, we need to look at the basic cost or price of a good being charged by the company, but then also the tax on top of it. And the government's plan to triple the tax that impacts travel by air, by land, but also that impacts the cost of goods that have to be shipped. So our view is that these automatic tax increases planned for next year by the Liberal government, increases in payroll taxes, increases in the carbon tax, these are going to make life significantly less affordable. They're going to worsen an already challenged situation for many Canadians.
So when you mention about the investment, let's take a new segment. Investment, immigration, healthcare. These three things are the prime topics of all time. For example, like investments, we all know our major foreign investment is from United States, followed by Netherlands, Luxembourg, UK, Scotland, and all other countries. And I need your thoughts about like the current situation and the future. And the immigration, I have a very simple question. Are you generally happy with the current immigration system, and what changes can you make? And the third one that's very, very, very important is our healthcare system. So what's really happening with all these three sectors?
Yeah. Okay, so on the first one, on investment in Canada, we want to bring Canada to a point again where there's a competitiveness in our economy, where Canada is seen as a prime desirable destination for investment, and that means strong economic growth, low taxes, affordable living for everyday people that are there, and that has not been the focus of the government. The focus of the government has been on image, on looking like they care, but not on the results. And certainly inflation is driving up costs for businesses as well as for individuals. These are the kinds of things that we need to address to strengthen Canada's desirability as a destination for investment. Now, on the immigration front, you asked me, how is Canada's immigration system working? I think a lot of users of the system would say, and I would agree with them, that it's not working. It's just not working very well, right? If you have to wait 3 years to bring a family of refugees that you're trying to sponsor, the sponsor's identified, you've put the money forward, and then you've got to wait 3 years for that application. If businesses, if spouses, if there are these massive delays in our immigration system, the system is just not functioning with efficiency and effectiveness. And it's very interesting the way the government talks about immigration. Is they want you to know that they're enthusiastic about it, and they keep talking about the numbers. Oh, we're going to have more and more and more. Well, the issue is the system actually working? Don't just tell me you like immigration. Show me that you care about making the system efficient and effective and deliver results in a timely fashion. If skilled professionals can't get their application processed in a reasonable amount of time, they're going to look somewhere else. I was chatting with a church group over the holidays about refugee sponsorship, and they said, look, most the churches that we interact with just are pulling out of that line of service because it's just so bureaucratic and so difficult, and there's so many delays. And it's really sad to see that. So you have people disengaging from the system just because it's not efficient, it's not effective, and so we need to go back to a results-oriented approach to immigration, saying how can we make sure that in the cases where we've made the collective decision that someone should be able to come, refugees, skilled workers, spouses and other family members, that application should be turned around as quickly as possible, that people shouldn't be just kind of left in this holding pattern for years and years. And then when people come here, if they have skills, they should be able to put those. Of course, everybody has skills, and they should be able to put those skills to work. And our leader, Pierre Pulver, has put a big emphasis on allowing people to work in the fields that they've been trained and certified in. And one of the things that we should be doing as part of that is working on pre-qualification, so that people can actually have the certainty of having their qualifications already recognized before they come to Canada. And that's going to take it's going to take hard work. It's going to take strengthening collaboration between professional associations and perhaps educational institutions in countries where immigrants are coming from. But what we should be aiming for is that when somebody walks off a plane, they know that they already have the qualification that is recognized in Canada, so that they can walk straight into that field. We haven't seen any real progress on this in the last 7 years. So immigration, again, it's one of these subjects where there's so much desire to signal and show an image, right? Oh yes, we stand with immigrants, we care about immigration, but look at the results. The results in the last 7 years in terms of backlogs, in terms of letting people be certified to do the work here in Canada, in terms of supporting not-for-profit organizations that are involved in refugee sponsorship, the results have just been very poor. And we need a government that will be measuring itself by its results, not by its stated intentions. Now, bridging over to the final question, which was about healthcare, there is a link here as well, in that we have a lot of immigrants that have come to Canada who have training in various healthcare fields who are not able to work in those healthcare fields, and we have some real shortages in terms of the health workforce. So strengthening the recognition of credentials, especially as it relates to healthcare, will help us start to overcome some of the challenges that we have in health human resources. There's a lot of work we need to do in healthcare. I think the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the fact that it's been kind of a just barely enough, just-in-time system for far too long, and now we see increasing efforts by the government to expand euthanasia. We see euthanasia being offered to veterans, to people talking about it even for very young children, and for me it's horrifying to see this kind of pressure from the extreme left, but that the government is responding to in certain respects, to ever expand the death option without supporting people to be able to have access to palliative care, other kinds of care they need to live a kind of life that they want to live. So we've got a lot of work to do in the area of healthcare. part of it is around that certification of credentials piece, but I think we need to talk about how we have a healthcare system that's not providing just barely enough, but that actually has the surge capacity within it to respond when there's a pandemic, when there's a large flu season, that we have that kind of built-in cushion, and so we need to just have an open conversation about what is it going to take to strengthen the healthcare system. Now, a lot of the actual delivery work on that will be done and explored at the provincial level, but the federal government can play a constructive role here, and we shouldn't be complacent here. We have a problem and we need to work on solving it.
So, Mr. Garnett, like when you mentioned in the very beginning, you started your Member of Parliament career or like your journey in 2015, 2016, right?
Yeah.
So even I started my Canadian life in 2016. So do you remember what was the basic pay during that time, at least in Ontario?
I'm not sure what it was in Ontario, and it's fluctuated a bit in Alberta just in response to some of the different energy dynamics, but I think at the time a paycheck was going a lot further. It was the amount people were earning, but it was also the price of goods was a lot lower. I think it was most obvious in the price of gas. Like just in the last 7 years, the price of gas just.
Like I remember, like when I came to Canada, the basic pay in Ontario was 11.25. Then after a few months, it went to 11.40. Then 2016, now it's 2022. Sorry, let's say this is 2023, and we just crossed 15.5. 15.5, that's a basic one.
So you're talking about the minimum wage?
Yeah, minimum wage.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
So is that really enough for a person to survive in this costly environment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on what the value of that dollar is, right? And this is one of the big questions here is that. We're dealing with inflation. We're dealing with a significant increase in the devaluing of that dollar over time. So what $15 could buy you 10 years ago, 15 years ago is very different. The inflation in some of these basic goods, gas prices, food prices, home prices, so I think where we need to shift the focus is to say, rather than producing more money, which is inflationary, the printing of new money for the economy, we need to produce more of what money buys. Because if we're producing more goods relative to the amount of money, then people will be able to afford more. So it's not, we can't look at sort of is $15, where does that fit in a vacuum? We have to, I think about the situation with inflation, and our leader Pierre Poilievre has been focusing on this issue of inflation for a long time. He was predicting inflation when the Liberal finance minister was predicting deflation, and we see where we've ended up. So we've got a lot of work to do in terms of making things more affordable, so that paycheck, whatever the nominal value of that paycheck is, that it actually goes further in getting people the things they need.
Like recently in your social media, I saw a post about the middle class family living in Canada. Like the rich people are getting richer, poor are getting poorer, and the middle people, they are the most suffering class, we can say. It's not middle class, suffering class. So hopefully, like when the conservatives come to the when conservatives take control over this one, like all these hurts will change to hopes.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
to all Aaha listeners, I have a surprise. So the people who actually follow Mr. Garnett in his social media, recently, just before Christmas, I saw a video. Like we know Mr. Garnett as a member of parliament, human rights activist, international shadow minister, but there is a poet inside him. There was a rhyme which had a massive impact. And can you just, to all Aaha listeners, can you just break that silence here?
All right. Well, I'll try to remember it. I'm going from memory here. So, so if I don't get this right, people can find it on my social media. But I said, "'Twas the night before Christmas, and no one could afford a house. Some people were blaming a fellow named Klaus. The Prime Minister said he would have people's backs, but it turned out his real plan was to triple the tax. The holidays are here. There is a gift shopping tradition, but things are more expensive thanks to the costly coalition. So instead, rest, stay home, take a nap. Try to forget about the Arrive Can app. If you hear the sound of a reindeer's hoof, then it's Santa, not Stephen, up on the roof. Santa reaches down inside of his sack. He knows what the people want is to have their freedoms back. But if you hear the sound of a convoy truck, then the message for liberals is end the mandates. Jesus came with the hope to save every sinner, even the ones who attend the press gallery dinner. Okay. I got most of it, but at Christmas we celebrate the joy that we find and proclaim peace and love to all people kind. This might not be as good as Cuzner's last riff. I just hope it won't get me shot by Journo Dale Smith. 'Twas the night before Christmas, inflation is the worst, and conservatives have a leader who will put the people first.
Wow, that was incredible. So once again, it's a great pleasure for me to interview you and in our Aaha space. So what is your message or New Year wishes to all the Aaha listeners, all the Malayali community all over the world?
Yeah. The Malayali community has contributed so much to this country and to the vibrancy of life and culture in many parts of the world. Canada remains a wonderful, beautiful country, a great place to live, work, and raise a family. But we have to, I think, address the fact that a lot of people are hurting right now. A lot of people are concerned about their ability to afford basic things that they need, about what their prosperity, their security will look like in the year ahead. And governments have a responsibility to respond to those legitimate concerns. And governments have a responsibility to take responsibility for the decisions that they've made and the effects of those decisions. So in the year ahead, I want to see the Canadian House of Commons, the Canadian government, do a better job of responding to those who are hurting, who are desperate, who are losing that hope and that optimism that has defined our country up until now, to turn those hurts into hopes, and to offer a vision for the future success of this country that emphasizes freedom, universal solidarity, also opportunity, and our limitless potential for prosperity. So I'm looking forward to the year ahead and being able to offer Canadians that exciting alternative. So again, it's Happy New Year. God bless in the year ahead.
So thank you so much, Mr. Garnett. It was a great pleasure for me to at least share the space with you. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon.
Wonderful to be here, and Happy New Year to all the Aaha listeners out there.
Thank you so much.